reduced to tears during his Brazil news conference today after being asked several questions about the racism that he's faced in football. The Real Madrid forward said he's never considered leaving Spain because that would be giving the racists what they want. Well, he broke down in the build-up to tomorrow's game against Spain, saying that he's losing his desire to keep playing because of what he's been going through. The Real Madrid forward spoke about his struggles fighting racism on the eve of the One Skin friendly between Spain and Brazil at the Bernabeu, which is set up with the purpose of raising awareness about racism nearly a year after the Brazilian international was racially abused at La Liga game in Valencia. This is the moment Vinicius broke down.
Eu tenho que me concentrar muito todos os dias. Desculpa, é que eu só queria jogar futebol, só quero fazer de tudo pelo meu clube e pela minha família.
All right, let's get some more on this. Let's speak to Spanish football expert Semra Hunter, who joins us now. Semra, very good evening. How have we got to this point where a player is breaking down in a news conference?
It really is heartbreaking, isn't it? And unfortunately, it's been a very long, saddening tale that goes well beyond a year now in the case of Vinicius. And obviously, racism in football in Spain has been a problem for a much longer time than that. But as it relates to him specifically, I'll just give you some of the highlights. Last season, there were 10 reported incidents of racist abuse that were specifically targeted at him. So whenever he traveled away to places like Barcelona, Real Betis, Valencia, Valladolid, Mallorca, and so on, he unfortunately was on the receiving end of racist abuse, which was then reported in the aftermath of that. But everything kind of came to a head in May of last year when he traveled to Mestalla with Real Madrid, which was to play against Valencia. At one point during the game, there was a fan who started making monkey chants, and he stopped and ran over and pointed over to the fan, trying to indicate to the referee what was going on. The game stopped for 10 minutes. They almost put into practice the protocol for anti-racism, which was to say that they were going to suspend the game if that behavior continued. But in the end, it did finish. But it did spark global outrage, and it also sparked global awareness as to what was going on with this racism problem here in Spain as it relates to Vinicius in particular. And I think it really was a moment in which he finally just exploded from all the frustration that had been building over such a long period of time, because he felt that he wasn't getting enough support either from the federation or from La Liga or from his own club or even from the media who have really been mishandling this for a very long time, a lot of the times trying to paint him as a provocateur rather than actually calling out the racism abuse for what it actually was. And so finally, people did start to sit up and take notice and show support and say, actually, there really is a serious problem that needs to be addressed here. And we hoped that that would be a turning point in the fight against racism in Spain. It has somewhat become a bit better, but unfortunately, in the case of him, it's continued to just get worse. There have been over 20 reports in total, including this season, where again, this behavior has continued. And now it's even happening at games where he's not even involved. In the last couple of weeks in the Champions League, he himself, for example, retweeted on Twitter or on X videos that were published by Spanish media outlets of allegedly fans saying things like Vinicius die or Vinicius chimpanzee outside of games between Barcelona, Napoli, and Atleti and Inter. There were also incidences where a group of Atletico Madrid fans, I think it was over a year ago now, allegedly they also hung an effigy with Vinicius and his shirts. And so they have also been prosecuting a lot of these incidences, these cases. Nothing has actually gone to trial as of yet, which again, I think is part of the frustration he has, is that there haven't been any real consequences to date. And so, unfortunately, now we are seeing this situation where he can no longer keep it together, unfortunately, and he has been brought to tears.
Semra, it's absolutely horrendous. Excuse me, this game between Spain and Brazil has been termed the one skin game. So how has that been received in Spain?
I would say there hasn't been too much of a reaction to the idea of this game per se. I think a lot of people are looking at it from more of a football point of view. They're looking at it as two World Cup winners, and it's an exciting game in and of itself, Spain and Brazil. But they are certainly trying to promote this idea that they do want to raise more awareness, and there has been a lot of support in that sense, at least from the media. But really, in the last hour or so on social media, just this conversation around Vinicius and the way that he's broken down has actually really taken off. And there's been at least a heartwarming sense of support from what I've seen anyway, from what I've been able to gather. There's been about 70,000 tweets related to him so far and counting. But a lot of people have stepped forward and said, we really need to do better as a society. We really need to come out and show support. And we can no longer defend these actions, these chants, and say, no, these are just insults that are trying to wind him up. No, it's not allowed. This is a hate crime, and something actually has to be done here. And we have to educate wider society, because unfortunately, we're even seeing children that are participating in this, as innocent as they may be, but they're just obviously copying whatever their family or those around them are doing. So at least we are seeing some nice response to what's just happened in the press conference. I even saw someone suggest that during this game at minute 7, maybe they stop, they give him a round of applause, they give him a standing ovation, which would be a lovely thing to see because, of course, he wears the number 7. So I think media as well are starting to wisen up to their responsibility and the fact that they also need to do better when reporting these instances. And hopefully it will have a more positive spillover effect going forward. We'll see what happens, obviously, tomorrow in this game. But I really do hope that it goes as well as everybody would hopefully like for it to play out.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Vinicius has said that there was no way he was going to leave Real Madrid because that would mean the racists would have won. Was there any danger that he would have left the Bernabeu?
Last year in May, when this whole thing blew up after that game at Mestalla, there were some reports that were saying that he and his representatives were discussing the possibility of him leaving La Liga, of leaving Spain, because he was, quote unquote, at his limit, that he just couldn't really take it anymore. But I'm not sure that it was ever really that serious. It was also suggested in these same reports that the reason being was they were trying to apply some pressure on organizations like La Liga to actually take action, because we are talking about one of the most gifted, talented, young superstars really here that we have here in Spain and Spanish football. And the idea of him potentially leaving obviously would have been a big blow. So I think it was more that than anything else. I suppose that he is very true in what he's saying about having no real intention of leaving Real Madrid, because it is one of the biggest and best clubs in the world. And I think the fact that Carlo Ancelotti happens to be the manager does play a very big role, because Carlo Ancelotti is one of the best human beings in football. He's so protective. He's such a fatherly figure. And I guarantee he's been giving him so much support and protection as well to make sure that Vinicius feels as good as he possibly can, given the circumstances. Obviously, we can see how affected he is by this. But I don't think that there was ever a big threat for him to actually decide to walk away from Real Madrid, as he says.
Semra Hunter, a difficult topic, but thank you ever so much for talking us through it. Thank you.